All right, guys, here we go with another episode of our chili across America. So today we're gonna go with a smoky white chicken chili. The reason I'm calling it smoky white chicken chili is because I took myself a whole chicken, spatchcocked that chicken, and prepared it yesterday afternoon on my smoker so that we can make that chili today. So you know what? Let's rewind it back and take a look at how we make that chicken yesterday. As you can see, we got ourselves a small chicken here. You want to make sure you clean it out if it has any of those giblets or the neck inside, which this one does not. So we are ready to go. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to spatchcock this chicken and get it prepped for the smoker. Okay, so once you get it spatchcocked, you can definitely get ready to season it. Use it kind of any all-purpose rub you want to use, whatever you want to use on the chicken. You don't need to go too crazy. Although I'm going to kind of mix up just a little bit today. So I'm going to kind of hit it with two seasonings. So I'm going to start with that Spiceology, that Derek Wolf cowboy butter. All right, so we're going to hit it with that. This will give it kind of that good buttery, kind of a lemon, but with a little bit of paprika and peppers in there as well. All right. And then I'm gonna come back and hit it with a light dosage of that smoky honey habanero. So I hit it with both. I said light and then it did not come out light, but that's okay. All right, we're going to kind of pat that on. All right, and I'm gonna flip that bird over and we'll do the same thing on the inside here. Get some seasoning in there as well. We're hoping some of the seasoning kind of gets down underneath that skin. You could also kind of get real crazy and slowly kind of maybe pull back that skin a little bit, season it underneath, and then see what happens after that. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll kind of come in, I'll turn it around for you here. I'll kind of come in and pull that skin up from here and work my hands underneath and kind of maybe rub it with some seasoning underneath at the same time. But for what we're doing today, we don't need all of that extra work, but it is kind of a fun way to do it as well. All right, so now really that's about it. Here in about 3 or 4 minutes, my Oklahoma Joe Pro over here, the Bronco Pro, should be up to temp and we'll get it on the smoker. All right, my friends, it's time to get that spatchcocked chicken over here to the smoker. A couple of things, so off camera, we didn't see me do underneath on that breastbone. I just took my knife, gave it a real thin slice, then flipped it back over, able to press down even more so it's even more flatter. This is gonna help in the spatchcock method so that every part of that meat, the dark meat, the white meat, everywhere cooks nice and evenly. We're going to get on the smoker here in a moment. We're looking to get that internal temperature of about 165 degrees before we pull it off. I do have on my smoker and they're mixed in with that charcoal on top, some chunks of applewood and some chunks of hickory, so a little bit of mix of wood as well. So you know what? Let's grab it, a glove or two, and let's get it on the smoker. All right, my friends? This is a great way to kind of kick off our white chicken chili recipe by doing it this way. Now you could also do chicken breast, smoke some thighs. You could buy yourself a rotisserie chicken. We're just going a little extra today with this one. All right, let's get the lid open here on that smoker and get it on. All right. All right, my friends, it should take us about 2 to 3 hours to hit that internal temp. After probing that chicken, we are ready to get it off the smoker. You can tell the sun is going down here because it's Saturday afternoon. So my plan was this afternoon to make this chicken. I'm gonna pull it off the smoker. We'll get it wrapped, just let it kind of rest for a little bit, and then I'll let it sit overnight probably in the refrigerator. Tomorrow morning we'll pull it out. We'll pull that meat apart off of that chicken and then start to build that white chicken chili. But for now, let's get that chicken off of the smoker, all right? All right, here we go. So we can get that chicken off, get it on that pan. There we go, my friends. Good, nice, great brown look to this. Let's let it rest, and then I'll wrap it up, and we'll see it again in the morning when we build that chili. So that's how I made that chicken yesterday. I'm kind of glad I did that yesterday and didn't try to force it all in today, because here it is now Sunday, the next day. Nice rainy day outside here in St. Louis, so glad I did that with that chicken. Now, I know I made that chicken on the smoker. You could, to be honest, you could make your chicken any way you want. You could just do some smokes, maybe smoke some thighs, just some breast, prepare that in the house if you want, or even buy yourself a rotisserie chicken. So you don't have to smoke a chicken, but if you want that really smoky texture to this chili, that's what we're gonna do. All right, so also what I did is earlier today, before I got everything down here in the man cave to start making this chili, is use my broiler in my oven, grabbed some poblanos, and we roasted those off. Then I took those and diced those up, so we have them for today's recipe. All right, so everything's ready. I got kind of all of my ingredients behind us, but before we take off, let's talk a little bit about white chicken chili. So it seems historically, kind of this white chicken chili really started to take off in the 1970s, 1980s, really kind of coming out of the southwestern United States, probably because it was a more fine as kind of your hatch chilies, your poblano chilies, and those types of chilies, as well as people just wanted something different than that traditional kind of that Texas meat, no bean chili that they were always getting, that had more of that red sauce to it as well. So gave somebody a different alternative. It's also, I think in this day and age, a lot of people probably turn to a white chicken chili because they feel like it might be a little more of a healthier alternative. Not sure if that's true or not, but that's the way it is. One other thing I want to throw out there. So, and people drop this in what you think in the comments. As you go through this recipe today, think to yourself, is this really a chili? Or is it a soup? If you kind of do some research online, there's a little bit of debate there as well, but it's always by title, had that name chili in it, so that's what we're rolling with for this episode. So you know what? Let's head on back here to the Lodge Dutch oven cast iron, get my induction oven fired up as well, and let's start building that chili. So I've got my induction oven going here. Remember, we want a magnetic bottom of anything you use on an induction oven. That's why these Lodge cast irons like this one are great, because magnets stick to the bottom. That's how you know it works on an induction oven. So I got it set more here at a medium heat. I've had it fired up here for about 30 seconds because these things get warm really quick. We'll get started here in just a moment with the first couple of ingredients, and then the process will move, have a good flow to it. So in about 30 minutes or so, we would have basically everything done in the pot, and we could continue to let it simmer as long as we want after that, or just keep it like on a warm. If you want it to be warm to serve instantly, you can refrigerate it and bring it back out and warm it up later. Like any chili, I firmly believe that it's better the second day when you rewarm it. But you know what? Let's get going. All right, so I'm gonna start with about 2 tablespoons of butter on the bottom of here. We're gonna go ahead and let that melt here for a moment. Now when we're using Dutch ovens like this, I always wanna go with the wooden spoon, nothing metal. I do not wanna scratch up the bottom of this nice Dutch oven here. These things run about $100, but so well worth it. I'll drop a link to this item in the description if you guys are ever interested in this one. All right, so that butter did not take long to melt. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and throw in some of our onions. So this was basically about 3/4 of a white onion. I saved a little bit to use as topping later if we want it on that bowl of chili. Go ahead and let that kind of go. And I'm also gonna throw in some peppers. So here are 3 of those roasted poblanos. So that once I peeled those skins off, had them cool. So we'll go ahead and take those, dump them in here as well. And then you can also add a little more heat to these if you want. Some recipes, I've seen people add up to 4 or 5 jalapenos to it and how much heat they want to it. We're not gonna add that much to it because I know I want my family to be able to enjoy it as well. If it were just me, I wouldn't mind. So I took up 1 jalapeno, diced it up. Go ahead and throw that in there as well. We'll go ahead and mix this together. And we're gonna let this kind of simmer down or kind of break down here and let those onions cook down just a little bit. So we'll let them go for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and add some garlic. All right, I've been letting this go for a few minutes here. Got myself about 3 cloves worth of minced garlic. Go ahead and put that in as well. Blend that in with the rest of these ingredients and continue to let this cook down for a couple more minutes. Okay, so if you're really trying to worry about time at home for this, it took about 5 minutes for those onions and peppers to really get where I wanted them. And now I've let it go for another 2 minutes with that garlic. Exactly what we want here. So now what we're gonna do, so remember earlier I asked that question, is it a chili or is it actually a soup? Well, my theory is if you make it feel and have more of a thicker complexity, it's going to be that chili for us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a little bit of flour. This is about a 1/4 cup of flour. We're going to basically just kind of sprinkle that across these ingredients and just kind of let that sit so those juices from those onions and peppers and everything kind of come up from the bottom into that flour here for about 1 minute only. And then what we're going to do is grab ourselves some chicken broth. Now for that chicken broth, you could go anywhere between 4 and 6 cups of broth, depending how thick and unththick you want it. But I'm going to add some other ingredients later. It's going to kind of thicken this up some more. So I'm actually going to go a little more on that broth. We're going to go somewhere between 5 and 6 cups of that broth when we pour it in here. Because we're working with that hot pan, even though this is a warm container of that chicken broth, we want to still pour it in nice and slow. You don't want to pour it in cold, so bring it back out, let it get room temperature if you have some in the refrigerator you're using as well. You don't want that cold hitting this hot pan. Kind of do your best to bring it back to room temperature. But we'll do that, we'll pour it in nice and slow. Continue to mix ingredients. Scrape the bottom as well, because sometimes with that flour in there, things will want to stick to the bottom as we're slowly pouring in that broth. So you know what, here you go, it's about that time. We're gonna go ahead and kind of slowly pour some of that broth in, and because it's a one-man show here, I'm going to put a little bit of it in. All right, I'm going to come over here and grab my wooden spoon, continue to blend as I'm slowly trying my best to pour in the rest of this broth, kind of rubbing that or scraping that wooden spoon across the bottom here. Make sure I don't get any burn from that flour that's in here as well. Continue to mix those ingredients. Also with that slower pour, it helps prevent any splashback you might get as well. All right, we're going to continue to get this broth going in here. And then once we get it in there, we'll add a couple more ingredients. All right, so we got that broth in. Next, I got myself 8 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese. I let it sit out and get softened, and you can tell I scored it with a knife. So when I push it here into my pot, it'll allow me to break it up a little easier. I don't want to just throw a full block in there. You'll be sitting here trying to mash it with your spoon. Save some time and some work for yourself, my friends. All right, so we're going to kind of get that going in here. We'll continue to stir. It'll bring this broth and that cream cheese back up to temperature. All right, I'm going to kind of stir this here and continue to stir for about 3 to 5 minutes until that cream cheese begins to melt and we see things starting to thicken up. As you can see that that cream cheese is starting to melt down in here. All right, along the way, almost like a greenish color rises to the top when I stop stirring from all this peppers in as well. But I'll tell you what, some delicious smells coming out of this. So now it's time to add our beans. We want to go with that white bean. We're going to go with kind of that Great Northern white bean today. So you're going to use 3 cans for this recipe. 2 of the cans, so I've took the beans out, I rinsed them out, put them back in the cans just so you guys could see the can as well. I just get the generic ones because it's not worth the extra, buck for the other ones when you're making a recipe like this. But for 2 cans, I rinsed the beans, put them back in here. So we're gonna go ahead and pour those in. That's 1, and that's 2. All right, so we got those in there. And then what I also did was I took the 3rd can and I mashed them, almost like you're mashing potatoes. So, and that's what I use my potato masher, to be honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. It's a little chunky for now, but we'll get them blended together in just a moment. And this is gonna help as another way to thicken up our white chicken chili. All right, so I gotta grab that wooden spoon and get to mixing again. So I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna mix this together. And then what we're gonna do after this, I'm gonna let it just simmer. I'm gonna bring it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes here, so we'll go ahead and remove that lid. I had it in that simmer. You can see that it definitely got warmer in there, that light little fisheye bubble going there on the top. I'm gonna give it another stir here with that wooden spoon. Make sure we scrape the bottom, make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom of our Dutch oven here today. All right, and now it's time, my friends, to add a couple more ingredients. So at this point, you have to make some decisions when you make this recipe. If you want to add a little barbecue seasoning or some just store-bought chili seasoning, you don't need too much. But we're going to go with that Meat Church today, the Meat Church Texas chili seasoning. I love this one from Matt Pittman down at Meat Church there. This is a great one to keep on stock at home. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons. There's 1, and there's 2. And once we got that seasoning on top, we're now ready to add in some more smoky flavor by adding in that chicken that we prepared yesterday. So this is about 3 cups worth of that pulled chicken. It really was about half of the chicken that we had on that smoker yesterday. Got the other half tucked away in the refrigerator. We're going to use that again later in the week for some tacos. So I'm slowly pushing that chicken in here because once again, I do not want that hot chili mix here to splash up and burn myself. All right, and then after we get that chicken in, we got one more item we're going to throw in here. We're going to put in approximately a cup of some heavy whipping cream. This will help us continue to thicken up what we got going on here in the Dutch oven. Slowly pouring that in as well. I don't want to just dump it in super fast. Get that cap back on there. I'll save the rest of that for later. And we're going to blend it one more time with that spoon. As I'm blending this, you can smell that smokiness from the chicken as well as the seasoning we just added in from Meat Church. Can't wait to see what it smells like after it simmers a little bit longer. Continue to blend it together here. And then what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and put the lid on it in a moment. And we're going to continue to let it simmer for about 10 more minutes at a minimum. At that point, we'll have to decide, are we satisfied with the consistency or do we want it to simmer a little bit longer? But for now, let's grab that lid, throw it back on top. We'll come back and check on it here in about 10 more minutes. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. Ooh, the lid's nice and warm. Let's take all the steam coming out of there as well. Lay that off to the side. Grab that wooden spoon again. I can absolutely smell that smokiness from that chicken we did yesterday afternoon. That is going to take this chili to completely another level. I just can tell already without even tasting it yet. All right, so at this point, decisions have to be made. Do I want to let it continue to simmer, get thicker, or you could do some other things. So something else you could do here is you could go in and maybe at the last minute grab yourself a block of pepper jack cheese, shred some of it, mix it up, throw it in here. All right, and then let it go for maybe 2 minutes until it thickens just a little bit more. That's not going to hurt as well. I've got some shredded that we're actually use as a topping in a minute, and I'll show you how we're going to use that, and it'll thicken up on the other side. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab myself my ladle and my trusty soup / chili bowl here. And we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a bowl of this chili going. And I'll cover it back up and let it continue to simmer so myself and the family can enjoy more of it later. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, let's head on over and let me show you how we're going to top this off. Okay, so moment of truth. Let's go ahead and top this off, and then we're going to enjoy that first bite. All right, so lots of things you could do here to top this off. So you could go with some cheeses. I've got myself I took a block of some cheddar, sharp cheddar, shredded some of that up. Block of pepper jack, shred some of that up. And then you could use some sour cream. And then off to the side here, I've got myself some limes and some avocado, and even one more remaining poblano if I wanted to slice it up and put it on top as well. So decisions. So I think what we're going to do today is we're going to take a little bit of that pepper jack, a little bit of that cheddar along the top. I'm going to take that lime actually and squeeze one of them inside. All right, and then I'm going to grab myself my knife here, What we're gonna do is slice that one. Hang it off to the side there if we want to squeeze some more in there later. And then we can also grab ourselves some avocado, place that in there as well. I don't want a lot of it. I'll save some of that for later. All right, and then last choice will be, do we want any sour cream? Well, I'm going to use just a little bit because I just want to kind of thicken things up. So we'll put just a little bit right there on the top. And you know what, for good luck, grab myself a paper towel here. And just because I love the way this looks, let's grab myself just a little pinch of that chili seasoning, put that on top, and there we go, my friends. There is that bowl of white chicken chili. Let me get myself a good photo of this, and then we'll give it a taste test. Okay, moment of truth. Now, you could also take some tortilla chips, by the way, friends, if you want to crumble some of that up across the top. But we're going to go without it here at first, but I have a feeling I might enjoy those later in my next bowl. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get myself a little piece of avocado in my bite, some sour cream, make sure I got those cheeses, nice hearty piece of that chicken right on the top. Here we go. Wow. Holy cow. First thing that hits you is the smoke from that chicken. And then you get everything else, those onions, those poblanos, a hint of that jalapeno because I didn't use a lot. You can definitely tell I put that seasoning in there from that Meat Church chili seasoning as well. I love that little bite of avocado as well. Kind of freshens it up, as well as kind of a little bit of that freshening from that lime that we squeezed on the top as well. So this is absolutely delicious, my friends. I am going to fully enjoy this bowl. I'll put everything you guys need to know in the description of this episode. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Continue to follow along as we add more recipes to our chili across America. And once again, is it chili or is it a soup? I'm going with chili today, my friends. We'll see you guys again on Bones and Brews.